Hi, I hope you're doing well. Today is my fifth podcast about my whole teenage journey, calisthenics journey, in which we'll talk about my year of 2022, which was about the first year of really getting even deeper into calisthenics. I could talk during the preceding episode about my meeting with the real calisthenics world in 2021. After this summer of 2021, I kind of unlocked myself in planche after a huge year of struggle on the straddle stage, just pike straddle, hold of straddle, not being able to really press or anything. I kind of unlocked myself. I was grinding the full in pyramid and also going for presses and push-ups in planche that was freaking disgusting. But yeah, the mentality and the grind was here. And I was explaining that it's at this very same period, like the end of summer, the return to school, that my best friend injured. And by certain circumstances, I just decided to lean in even deeper in this calisthenics journey. I could progress like really, really fast, so much that during the winter, in February 2022, I participated to a competition and I have such great results. I also talk about my love life, let's say, and it's kind of a catalyzer, a reason why I just decided to lean even deeper in calisthenics. And so we are at the end of spring 2022. My level is about, let's say, maybe one arm front lever. I was really great at this. Hold to press in a relatively clean form. I had a couple pull-ups off front lever, but my touch was shit. I had no more than one leg hold, let's say, or, a dead stop in full touch, but nothing more. And in planche, I had about maybe hold to press in a form that wasn't that clean. I had really few, this proprioception habits and knowledge of the planche also. I really had a kind of belief and religious way of thinking with planche. It was like, it's due to certain circumstances that you are strong or not. I wasn't aware that strength is something you have within you that you cannot lose like from one day to another. All the stuff like nervous system, technical, all this was something I wasn't really aware of. And so we are in spring 2022 and my best friend is coming back from his injury. And so I am now the strongest of the two of us, but we don't really have the same approach. He just wants to come back, to be honest. He has not that much of huge ambitions. He wants to get freaking strong extra, but first just come back injury free and all this stuff, and that would be fair enough. On my side, however, I haven't detailed enough in the introduction what could happen during the preceding arc, but I had done a competition. I could see my potential. I was the youngest. I was in the top 8. I was seeing the calisthenics community. I was getting more sensible to it and looking more on social media to people's here and there. And I was really thinking like, I have the potential to be in the top athletes of this sport, not like this summer or this year, but I have this potential within me. And I could also kind of push the barriers so much during the preceding year. I've been from straddle to full within less than a year. And beside this, my pull level was kind of weird with this ratio between my touch and one arm front lever. But I was really confident about it. I had also this huge hope of getting back my freestyle level that I got during the preceding summer. And so in my head, I was seeing a kind of streamline of I'll get to the top, because I just remind you that what made me begin street workout was I will be the next French world champion after Senguin. And this is something I haven't really fully abandoned in my head. And so we are at the end of spring 2022, maybe in May or June. And I end school pretty early because it's just a course of event. My school grade, let's say, my school level was the 1 year in which you end school pretty early. And so this is how I could invest even more into calisthenics at a quite early time in the year compared to usual time in which you end about beginning of July, end of June. I had 1 more month to just lean into this. At that time, I had prepared a plan. I could talk to Noah, this Maltese guy that was just 1 year older than that was freaking strong. And I remember trying to get some tips here and there, like he could tell me during the preceding winter that the one thing that was really enabling the greatest to achieve the top was to cut, to get on diet and lose weight. And this is what I could do during the winter. I got pretty great results. I had at 16 an incredible shape. To be honest, even today I could watch at these photos and share them to you and be freaking proud of this. And so I had this idea of going even further in this cut protocol, let's say, in order to get stronger. This was the first thing I would implement. Beside this, I also heard that the greatest would train twice a day. Like some activations in the morning, maybe some weighted sets, or I don't know, some grease the groove, that kind of stuff. And this is how I decided to, let's just give a try to this. And so I began, and the results were freaking great. I would do only presses in the morning and maybe a few sets of hold touch with elastic, something like so. My philosophy with this was a kind of let's work on what is not too intense for my body, but that I want to work on in an interesting way. And so it was hold to press, maybe with elastic or not, with a sort of reserve. So it was a kind of mix of grease the groove and training in the morning. It was fully made, like bro science made in my head. I had really few things to to kind of base my judgment on. And so I decided to go for that, but it eventually proved to be really interesting, and I could gradually progress every day. I was seeing more and more progress. The summer was coming and the weather was getting greater and greater, so I was going out even more. I remember having a kind of rhythm of, once a week you have a little peak. You don't really know how you just get it, but you get it. There is a little gathering, a little training with your friends, and this is when you give it all. And this is when I would usually get my best performances. I remember of my first push-up presses outside, on outside bars, not on my little parallettes. I was able to employ strength and demonstrate it to people. And I think this is a really freeing feeling, let's say. There's a huge difference between you're able to do your little things in your room alone with your conditions, your circumstances, your palettes, and all this, and you're able to show what you have within, no matter the circumstances, or at least like with way more amplitude, let's say. I remember of my most bro science strategy ever. I decided for maybe 2 weeks or so to do only floor. I would do only floor in planche. I had so few mobility that I would have a kind of neutral grip, and only my thumbs would be able to face like my direction. I don't know if you get the point. Like the most efficient way to do floor on planche is fully pronated. It's even easier than parallettes. But the less you use your hands mobility to compensate the strength you have to employ, the more it gets hard. I wasn't strong enough to do supination. That's freaking hard. And so that's why I was doing some kind of neutral, and it was really constraining. I was depending on this, and if by any side my thumb would just go out of trajectory, I would be just done. And And so during about 2 weeks, I would spam some dead stop to press in full on the floor, and I had the introduction of touching parallels. I was like, within 2 weeks, when I will touch parallels, it will be in order to do freaking amazing combos. And the worst part is that it worked. After 2 weeks of doing only floor, I would take parallels, and I was so freaking light. I would hold way more than usual and press as if it was nothing. The only issue is that I had no handstand, because on floor, being able to do that stop, press, and then handstand after this, when you have this weird grip of kind of neutral that is neither pronation or supination, you just don't work your handstand. And I was still in this kind of religious, mystical approach of you have things or you don't have them. And so I would be strong in hold and press, but without handstand after this, and freaking afraid of going for negative because I would never do it. And it's a repeating cycle, a vicious cycle in which you don't do negative because it's hard. So you progress only on hold and presses. And when you try to do negative, it's hard. So you don't you don't do it and you don't progress and you just continue this way. And so this is how during the first weeks of the summer, from about the beginning of June, I would just spam this and it worked to some extent. I won't lie. By the end of June, I was able to do a clean push-up into dead stop, into press, maybe a hold after it. And in really good days, I would be able to do some trashy negative in order to do maybe 2-3 presses. And so, everything was going on plan. Just 1 month in, and I made substantial progress. On the touch side, I would increase by maybe 1 second of touch, a bit more pull-ups, maybe 4 or 5. And my one-arm front lever also, I would regain the level I kind of lost during the preceding 2 months. So I was actually on my prime. It's the moment I discovered this really strange state in which you live for your performances, and it gives you back because you just continue to perform every day. You see a little detail to refine. You see where you can improve, and you can see it also through your workouts. You can invest even more, you can do more, and it never stops. As long as you give, you earn in return. And each day I would see my weights getting lower and lower by 100 grams here and there. And by the end of maybe a month, I would have lost 2 kilograms. This was never stopping. I was at this rhythm. At the end of summer, I'm I'm at the top of the region, not at the top, but in the top, because in my region there is Onizuka, Ryan. I wasn't that ambitious. I had mentioned this weekly gathering and training with people, but there was also little more than training. It was little gathering with a lot of people from the region. It wasn't 10 people or something so. It was some huge gathering with 50 people minimum coming from all around the region. And I would put even more stake into this. And I remember of one specific meeting that was in the farthest city of the region that I could go to. I had prepared so much, and I was also with Hippo. I remember working on this specific transition. I was dreaming on it. It was white finger planche into floor finger planche. You'd go from finger to palm. This. I was freaking mattressed by Dailong, I have to admit. And so I was working on it. And so my strategy was really kind of still in this religious practice of you unlock things in gathering. And my approach to this was mainly elastic and under form. I would do something straddle, spam of straddle finger to palm, and elastic also in full to palm, and hopefully it would work on the gathering. And the funny part is that it would work in a lot of circumstances this approach of a sort of preparation, and I hope I give all my hope, energy, and belief in it will work on the gathering day. And so there was this gathering, and I remember of succeeding for the first time this transition of wide full finger into palm and a hold. I wouldn't press after it, but I could hold pretty well for 3 full seconds. And yeah, I also did a really clean full push-up to press. And I remember of the adrenaline you have when you have the chance to choose your music, and you have so many people around. So many people just don't care about you. I have to admit. So many people just don't care, but you do. And you are like so focused in what you will do, and you have this urge within you. I want to impress. I want to get looked, but not for some wrong reasons, in my opinion. It's also for the sake of sharing, it for the sake of inspiring, showing what you're able to do. I still had not posted anything on my Instagram. I had this mentality that from Noah, like I won't post until I'm really proud of what I've done. And Maltese guy, full push-up to press guy, said it wasn't enough, so I wouldn't post like my current level. And so there was this kind of dynamic of you have nothing on your Instagram profile, and you want to kind of shock people around. This kind of you want to trigger a sort of who is this guy that posts nothing on the Instagram? That's this sport, this calisthenics sport and mentality is really broken. And so the reason I'm talking about this specific training is not only for this performance that I could launch, it's also because I remember of this day. There was a second training organized with the kind of strongest people of the region, or at least really strong people compared to kind of the average level of athletes. And they were like, we'll train at this place. And it was a park I've never been into. And I was really lucky because I would be at my father's apartment. So I had way much more liberty to get back home really late compared to mom's house. And so I decided to just get into like the dynamic, the momentum of the group. And this is how for the second time of the day, I would do some kind of best performances. I would do my first harsher push-ups on high bars. I don't know, until today, I don't know how I was able to do this. I would do also some freaking great negative into press again. I would unlock so many things. More than this, I was realizing that I was a part of the group. I was getting into this group of maybe 10, 15 guys that were training hard with intent and only in this calisthenics strength side of thing. These people were the kind of people matrixed by hard wave edit or just strength. They could appreciate the freestyle side of thing, but it wasn't the street workout mentality. I think this is when I kind of perceived the difference between there is the calisthenics strength and there is on the side the street workout community. This is why I'm employing the term street workout since the beginning, because to me there is a real distinction between street workout and calisthenics in strength. The way I call this second sport, which in my opinion is a sport that is not street workout, is kind of blurred. Like, it's weird to say calisthenics strength, but I think you get the point. The distinction I'm trying to make is from two perspectives: the athlete's mentality, the intention in the sport, which is more towards performances, I would say. I don't know, actually, it would be hard. It's not the subject, but yeah, I just wanted to underline this transitioning, this kind of switch between street workout and calisthenics. I was getting into this group and I was recognizing myself even more in this. This is what I had developed with Hyper during a whole year. It all began with outsiders. You know, this kind of hard wave edits, only focused on strength. But I had not abandoned this dream of being complete and having freestyle on the side. And so that's how during maybe the middle of July, I decided to work on my freestyle again with Adrian. Adrian is an athlete that is maybe 2 to 3 years older than me. He began at about the same moment, but he has way more experience in sport, and he decided to invest in freestyle pretty early. So his level is about, let's say, the top of the country in terms of freestyle completeness between agility and strength. And to be honest, there was two reasons that made me do freestyle again during this period of middle of July. I learned that the French championship would take place in Paris, and this championship would guarantee a place for the world championship. At this time, the federation, the organization, and all this stuff was really messy, so it wasn't like the most serious competition you can have out here, but it's still non-negligible. And it was also, if I remember well, it was a paid ticket to go to the world championship. So I was seeing all this as opportunity, you know. A lot of athletes would boycott the competition. They announced 2 weeks before the competition. Yeah, really. Or maybe 3 weeks maximum, which is, you cannot do that. Like the French championship, and you announce it 3 weeks before. Maybe it was a bit more, but you get the point. And this is what motivated me to get back on track on freestyle. And I had this idea of training with Adrian, even though I was thinking him as a rival with few rivalry, as he was just destroying me on every field. I still had this idea of, if I manage to get back this level in 360, I get a shrimp flip, or I don't know, a little transition, and I'm able to hold the full planche in supination on high bars, it's done. I'm in the top 3 easily. And so this is how, in the middle of July, I decided to have a new plan. I have to work out today, and this is something that works really great since about a month and a half. Now I'll use this method I seem to be working with and integrate freestyle in it. And so I would work on supination in the morning and freestyle in the afternoon, with a bit of strength before freestyle. For a whole week, I had the chance to work out outside with Adrian, and he would coach me on the 360. I wouldn't get it. It was so freaking hard. But I was seeing progress on this supination in the morning. I would be able to do my first straddle hold to press on high bars. And yeah, I was kind of developing this vision of me. It took a couple days to gain the momentum, you know, but I could get back this momentum of, you progress each day, you have something to correct, and you know where you're going. I was really helped by my father. I could live at his apartment, and it was the first time I had such a liberty, going out late, having the possibility and so few constraints on food, for instance, because at mom's house, my mom, I have to admit, maybe she was right. She was like, I don't get what you're doing with diet. It's kind of extreme. Meanwhile, dad was kind of supportive. I remember I could have a really calibrated meal. Like on the morning, I wouldn't eat, or maybe just fruit. At lunch, I would eat only vegetables. Like, I don't know how we say this, but you know, raw tomato, raw carrots, cucumber, that kind of stuff, with some chicken, a lot of yogurt without fat, you know, like the yogurt with fat extracted, some blueberries, a banana. And basically it was a 400 or 500 calories meal. And at the dinner, I would eat a kind of normal meal with a lot of rice and or pasta, chicken, eggs, that kind of stuff. And that's basically how I could cut so fast, because I was in so high deficit, and I wasn't really aware of that at the time, but my body was sending me signals. Because in fact, once a week, maybe sometimes on the weekend after the huge gathering, I would completely destroy myself with some ice cream or cakes or like some sugary stuff, you know, and the cycle would repeat itself on the following week. And so I had every circumstances to progress even more, to just ascend, continue to ascend. I had some little pains here and there, mostly in push-ups, but that's okay. And I remember of a really specific method for gaining strength and I don't know, like just being stronger. That was just my goal. It was given by one of these strong guys I was talking to. And it was something like you do maximum of push-up with elastic in full planche, and then you do the maximum of straddle push-up with elastic, with dead stop, I have to mention, with dead stop. And then you do maximum of tuck push-up with elastic if necessary, with dead stop. And then you go on the floor and you do lean push-ups with dead stop. And you do this with no rest. You just do this straight on. It's basically a drop set to failure, specific to calisthenics. And maybe this guy advised me to go slow or something like so and do it only twice or 3 times with 5-minute rest, something like so. And I would go even harder on it. I would do this maybe 4 times and with less rest or something like so, and I would see certain results. I was getting more ease in push-ups, and it's quite logic. You just give yourself more volume that is really specific. You rest enough and you'll see result pretty fast. But at the 3rd training, or maybe the 4th, I just injured. When you get in this kind of intensive method, what are you expecting? I had so few volume in push-up. It was basically just my full push-ups attempts. There wasn't like building work. This was the building work, but I would go so intense since the beginning. We are also at the end of 1.5 months of cutting, of training a lot. And I decide to go for a new programmation in which I add freestyle. I work on supination planche. What are you expecting with your rotator cuff, which is like a tendon in the shoulder? I just injured. And so, okay, let's try to work on it. I have a bit more knowledge compared to 2 to 3 years ago when I had a little injury, when I would do nothing. Now I knew that you have to do something just in order to keep, let's say, some field on the injury. So I do elastic, this kind of rotation, external rotation with elastic, internal, all this stuff. And it's not really working. Maybe I'm not patient enough. I had tried to do full planche. If I have the straight arms, it's okay. If I do wide, I'm dead, I'm cooked. It's way too constraining for my rotator cuff. If I do touch, it's too hard also. Or maybe I can a bit, but by the end of the week, basically, I just worsen the injury. It just extends to touch, wide, and even sometimes planche with straight arms. So I'm kind of desperate. And so during a couple days until the French Championship arrives, I just do elastic stuff here and there. It doesn't really work. I'm injured. I try to keep the diet and all this stuff, but... And so when the French Championship arrived, I was coming in order to support Adrian. And I would also come in order to just have a look. And I remember of how frustrated I was. During the break times, I would do a sort of combo with only straight arms, but I was feeling limited. I had a little adrenaline that would enable me to perform a bit on only hold and presses, but I wasn't seeing the potential of continuing much. If I look back, I was able to indeed perform. I was doing some dead stop, press, hold, repress, which is pretty decent for someone injured. It's not nothing, but it wasn't enough. So my motivation was so freaking low. And I have to remind you that during the whole summer, I would have sacrificed so much. I would have invested so much. And my baseline was basically cutting every day and progressing on something every day. I was seeing gradual progress. And this time, maintaining wasn't enough. And so I look at the competition. Adrian wins the competition. I have a certain bitterness of looking at all this. I may have had a certain jealousy, I have to admit, not necessarily against him, like as the person, but just frustration that was personalized in his victory, if you may understand it, maybe. And so we are at the beginning of August, and I have about 2 weeks before going to vacation, in which I wouldn't be able to train anyway. And I continue. I have this mentality, okay, I will get back. I do elastic rotations. I do every day some attempts of straddle push up with a lot of elastic in order to go in the range that could provoke the injury, but while trying to be pain-free. This is the kind of strategy that we want to implement when it comes to re-education, all this stuff. But maybe I've been too far. I actually have been too far, I remember. And by the end of these 2 weeks of trying, I just ended up with nothing. I even maybe worsened even more the injury by letting it take some field on the touch, for instance, on even the front lever a bit. I was kind of desperate. And so I go in vacation during the middle of August. It's also the moment I reach my 17th birthday. I'm injured and I feel so just bored, nostalgic of what I earned but lost so easily. I remember being at an incredible playa in Portugal with a beautiful sunset and taking a video, a picture also. And it was providing me such deep emotions of just, this is where I am now. I was in vacation with my family, so it was kind of balancing this sad mood. But yeah, I was thinking about it anyways. When coming back from these holidays, my injury was about the same. It had not really changed. I still had a lot of pains. I still wasn't able to do a lot of stuff. Maybe the only thing I was allowed to was maybe front lever and planche with straight arms. And I remember doing an edit of my level, so I would overpass this rule of you don't pass until it's enough, because I was just willing to get some support and energy from people. I would do a sort of recap of the summer best performances with all these clips and performances that I was seeing as just a step, you know. You've reached it, you're freaking happy, you look at it a lot, but then you think about what you will do next. Well, these videos were my last performances in reality. Had I enjoyed it enough? And so the return to school is coming. I'm still that nostalgic guy looking at my own level. I'm trying to do these rotations, all this elastic stuff, extra, but it still doesn't work. It's been a month, even more, and it still doesn't work. And this may be a detail, but my best friend decided to stop calisthenics also. During the summer, he couldn't really come back as he wanted. And yeah, basically for a lot of little reasons, he just decided to go back on musculation. And that's how I was so freaking alone that honestly, it did not matter much to kind of stop also. That's how I decided to engage in street lifting as long as I would have this injury. I also decided to begin volleyball. I had begun volleyball a couple of years before, but it wasn't that serious. Now I was so freaking motivated by haiku that I had some concrete goals of being strong in this sport. In this moment, I would create another Instagram account and I would kind of switch off Yao Ming Sema's account as a way to say, like, I'm just not this person anymore. I archived my level and this goes on the side. Now I just try to be Leo I'm doing street lifting. I post photos because I developed this sensibility for great photos like sunsets, places, just the sense of aesthetic. I was feeling like I couldn't post this on Yao Ming Sama. I wanted Yao Ming Sama to be about calisthenics. And so this second account with the beautiful name of MILF Slayer, which is an ID from Hippolyte, was a way to just express another voice that I had within me. And even though it was hard to accept and go into this whole new situation, when I had the momentum, it was a freaking great time. My circumstances weren't incredible at mom's house. I had to wash with a bucket after volleyball's training that were ending pretty late, and I would, have a cup and take the water like this and in the dark in order to not have lights that could disturb people around. it was a kind of hard situation that you endure, and with the look back, you have a certain nostalgia about it. And when I was in this situation, I wasn't feeling any pain. I was in certain hardship, but I had decided to endure it, and it was enabling me to do what I wanted. I could get back home late at mom's house under these kind of circumstances, and I was okay with that. I would lean so much in this new path I had chosen, like volleyball. I won't describe it too much, but I had the opportunity to train even harder in the club, and so I leaned even more into this. There would be some camp in the holiday, and I would be in the first person to register. This kind of obsession I had with calisthenics, I transferred it to volleyball. And on the street lifting side of things, I was pretty happy with the result. I would spam a lot in order to just progress, and that was enough. And by the end of 2-3 months, during December, I had this idea of maybe I should begin musculation with Hippo. Just 2 months, something like so, in order to, just get a look and maybe progress on legs, because I had developed this appeal for aesthetic. My main inspiration at the time was maybe David Lade and a guy that I forgot the name. It's also the moment I got my first camera. I remember getting the body first, and during 2 weeks I would not have enough money to buy like the lens. So I just had a body of camera and no lens with it. And the moment I had the lens, I don't know, it was a feeling like that until today I think I wouldn't have again. This feeling of when you're a kid and you're allowed to have a new thing that is completely changing your life. It was that kind of moment. I would go out and take pictures of random stuff, but I was feeling so connected with what I was doing. I was able to capture things that were inspiring me. And the more interesting is that this would happen on my way to school. Like the walk that I do literally every day since about 3 years, I would be able to have some creative impulse in my head in this very same place due to this new asset I had, this camera. And this whole situation was so stimulating. I was discovering a new part of me. I was actually a new person. By sometimes I would even forgot this whole summer I had spent fully invested in calisthenics. All the frustrations and all this was gone because I had found something else, and I was someone else also. That's how in January 2023 I decided to engage in musculation for 2 months. I did not mention it, but since September I began to bulk, sort of. I think when I look back that it was just a survival mechanism after the hardcore cut I had done, and this would continue even more during the months of January and February, because I now had to train legs, and my goal was to hit these 80 kilograms. I may have not mentioned it, but during the summer, I was 72. So during 6 months, 4 months, I would gain, yeah, 8 kilograms, which is kind of dumb, but youth has to experiment, right? And so I keep a certain good memory of this period also, this gym period. I would do street lifting, musculation, legs, and a goal of aesthetic, And the issue I was meeting at this moment is that when I was at home, I was spamming street lifting with the same weight. It was something like 30 kilograms or 40 at maximum, And so I would spam in endurance, let's say, kind of effort. Meanwhile, when I was at the gym, my goal was to go for this high weight. I wanted to perform. I had kept this mentality of calisthenics, of grinding and getting performances. And so my baseline performances, like my performances from nothing, were maybe 40 or 50 kilograms in pull-up and 90 kilograms in dips, which is really good. On squat, I was barely able to do 100 kilogram for one rep, but it was mainly technical because a squat is a really technical movement when you get to weight it. But I had a chance to be helped by Hippolyte, which was getting more and more invested in powerlifting. And that's how by the end of 2 months, I could get a rep at 130. I failed the 140. In dips, I had not progressed for 2 months. I had progressed on my 3 reps and maybe 2 reps, but my one PR, let's say, couldn't reach this 100 kilograms. I was kind of pissed, but the reality is that I was training like shit. I had no methodology. I was just trying my maximum with certain sets of range. I would progress on 8, 12, and sometimes 3 reps. But yeah, my approach was still in this religious practice and belief related, more than science-based or methodology-based. The way I was dealing with effort also was kind of weird. I was mostly relying on emotions and my energy was so unstable. I had to get myself so out of myself to pull out performances in my sets. Each set was a battle. It was going freaking intense every time. I had to slap my I don't know how we say it, my legs. But all this period was motivated by doing TikToks, posting my physique, and using my camera. And I would just continue during these 2 months and also ending the bulk, like hitting these 80 kilograms. And so at the end of 2 months, I had hit most of my goals. I had better squats. I could say like I could hit 130, which is fair enough. And so yeah, I just quit gym with a peace of mind. And I could also feel that the urge was coming back. I have to admit, enough time passed so that I forgot any bitterness or, I don't know, like bad feeling related to calisthenics. I was eager to train back. I was kind of injury free. I still had some little, let's say not pain, but some little bad feeling. But I had hope. And that's how I basically just decided to come back on it in March 2023. And so this is when the story will end. I'm quite disturbed by how I could deliver the story. I hope that was clear enough and appealing and interesting and all this stuff. I sincerely thank you for watching through the whole thing. I hope you will spend a good day and that you spend your time mindfully. See you.